Have you ever been in a situation where no matter what you do, it just wasn't enough?
Does anyone notice this? I feel like I'm taking crazy pills!
I distinctly remember joining a workforce once where it became increasingly clear that the woman who was managing the team had zero interest in actually giving any constructive or positive feedback or encouraging people whatsoever. She never said a kind word to any of the women that she was supervising. When I first came to that team, there were a lot of things that you weren't trained in. So seeing the pattern of what the next new hires would face, I created and emailed this little step-by-step guide with screenshots as to how new starters might be able to access some of the IT programs and be able to have it working for them once they got onboarded. Her only response was, "Fix your email signature." I would have thought that a manager or supervisor would say something like, "I can see you've shown initiative here. That will actually help new starters and help lighten the training load." Or even something a little cheeky like, "Great, let's get some more freak work out of you and make you create all the training manuals." Could have even used the classic shite sandwich of give you some positive feedback, then give you the criticism, and then another piece of positive feedback. Nice to eat. But in this situation, none of that was the case. And it's a normal response as a human being, when you get hurled an off-topic criticism, to want to ask for more clarification, or even feel the need to explain why you think it's a great idea to help other people and create some materials that will improve the system. But I quickly realized in this particular situation, nothing I could say would ever be received in a positive way. Anything I said would have been a complete waste of time. Ultimately, and this is the saving part of it, I realized that none of this manager's behavior was personal. She was doing this to everybody.
Evil is running rampant through the streets.
And maybe you've been in a situation where people have behaved irrationally, been hypercritical, and are totally unaware of it. Let it all fall apart. You have to let people and situations fall apart all around you. Trying to constantly fix, explain, change or control other people and their behavior, their thoughts, their emotions. It's not only futile, it is completely exhausting. We can waste so much energy trying to get people to meet our expectations, even if to us they're completely rational, logical, and bare minimum standards. Ultimately, everybody has to live their own experience to learn things their own way. You can't force people to take a different path. Have you ever tried to convince a 19-year-old that buying a souped up car is actually not going to make their life a whole lot better? I remember when I was a teenager and I really wanted a belly button piercing, and there was no way in the heck that the household would let me do that. So I sat on the edge of my bed, used a sewing needle and a bottle of Isocol and did it myself. Without anesthetic. I was going to do it anyway, even if there was a no. You can't walk someone else's life for them. So go ahead, get the car, do the body piercing. You have to find out for yourself. Let other people find out for themselves. The things that we think are important in our 20s are often, in hindsight, not very important at all. That watch, our clothing, all the ways we try to appear to be successful to the outside world according to standards which ultimately aren't really our own. And it doesn't go away because likewise as an adult, you are sure to disappoint your parents, your boss, everyone else around you at some stage, no matter what you do. And things in general in life sometimes just don't go the way that you hoped they would. This is how life is meant to be. We're meant to have these challenges. And this is really about the process of letting go. I heard this comment about marriage where when two people get married, one person will hope that the other person doesn't change, and the other person will hope the other person does change. It's a little bit dark, but at some point, both are going to be disappointed. And it's the same with any human connection. You cannot make somebody choose different. Internally, they have to want to do it. You can just be a pointer or lead by example, but somebody has to want to do it. And in the workplace, like family or relationship dynamics, there might be manipulation, coercion, guilt trips, and that might work in the short term using fear and guilt as tactics, but notice it never really works out. People will eventually leave, or it'll build to resentment from both sides over time, which is never going to be ultimately good for anyone or for the business. Let go of trying to fix things and just let it fall apart. I'm going to caveat this here for all you clever folks out there. When I say let it fall apart, I'm not talking about extreme circumstances and tolerating disrespectful or downright dangerous behavior or situations. Sitting under a tree while it's lightning and there's a rainstorm whilst weeing down your own leg and thinking, oh, I hope I don't get hit by lightning, and, just let it all fall apart is not the attitude I'm talking about. It's not about giving up and being a doormat. It's about releasing the control that you never really had in the first place. It's about knowing where your no is. Where is that line? What will you not tolerate? And then setting clear boundaries so that you protect your own well-being. This also means taking on the responsibility of having those awkward and those uncomfortable conversations, those hard conversations, communicating your needs assertively. It takes courage to stand in your values, because the greatest power that you'll ever have is the ability to walk away from a situation where you're not being valued. So if you have a job that requires you to lie, or at best hide the problem, it might be wise to walk away from it. The only, one more time, the only control that you have is what thoughts you let run amok in your head. Even then, some days it's like pushing water uphill, trying to catch them before they all bombard you, and you just accept them and you let them just have a free-for-all and give up, and then you feel like utter crud. It's like, especially if you are socially inclined and you have a friend that just betrayed you, you can easily spend days just wondering, what happened? Why would somebody do something like that? How do people behave like this? I don't understand. Shout out if you've been there. Some days you won't even realize that you haven't moderated the stuff going on upstairs for the entire day. When a situation doesn't turn out the way you had planned, or a person is behaving negatively, I find it super helpful, and this is something I'm practicing, to pause and go within and ask yourself internally, what am I feeling right now? What is going on? What's happening physically with my body? And just check in. When you're in the heat of the moment, we all think the same kind of short-term solution, such as, if only this person will die, my life would be a heck of a lot better. Come on, we're humans, we all think this stuff. This is just a reminder to shift a little deeper and shift inward. What am I thinking? What am I feeling? Have I come across this situation before and had this kind of response and sudden, like that energy rush of wanting to react? Is this the same kind of thing showing itself again and again? So it's a bit of a gentle investigation with yourself, especially when it comes to somebody being angry with you or trying to guilt trip you. Pause, catch that split-second moment before you actually punch them in the face or do that in your head movies, and ask yourself this question: is this really about me? And I can guarantee you it's probably not. It seems like it because they're coming at you, spewing all their vomit all over you and projecting it in your direction. But it's likely because they want you to do something. They want things to change. They're trying to make you do something so they feel better. And that's when they use the biggest tactics. If you don't respond this way, they'll turn it into another direction. Oh, maybe they'll react to guilt. I'll throw it their way. Maybe they'll react to my anger and I'll start yelling belittlement. I'll try tearing a strip off them. If they seem to be doing a better job, I'm going to push them down into the ground because it makes me feel better, because they're reminding me of how I'm not living up to my potential. It's all of that. So it's not often going to be you. It's going to be their own issues that are coming up. People's negativity reflects their struggles, not your worth. We all have different ways of trying to control things, because control is ultimately an expression of fear. We're afraid we're going to miss out. We're afraid that we're going to be looking bad, we're going to be excluded, that we're not good enough. Why? These are those internal questions. I have been diving into a lot of this as well with myself, and this is part of the adventure of life, is that you start pulling the thread and then you find that things are just unraveling. And gosh, it's such an adventure, but it's also horrifying at the same time. And I've often asked myself, why do I feel the need to always do such a good job and to be A+ and conscientious and show up and be diligent? And when you start digging deeper, the obvious surface level answer is going to be because I want to help. That's not deep enough. That's everyone's freaking, it's up here, but the depth of it is, maybe you grew up in an environment with a family where you didn't really get shown love or appreciation, but there was one sliver of a window where if you did that thing, you got rewarded, like the mouse with the cheese. So you became really good at that thing. So maybe that's what's, created your behavior going through life, where, like for mine, getting approval was only if I achieved or did something. Clean the house, get dinner on. There was no real value other than work. So I became very good at working to prove my worth. So that's great in a corporate field as well. That's probably why I did so well. But then you start to pull the thread and unravel all of it and think, is that really me? Or is it because I've been conditioned to be accepted and have approval because I'm so good at what I do? Like, then I'm loved, or then I'm needed. It's very interesting how it's all starting to pan out, and we're all the same. We all have these human little ways of coping and developing. It takes practice to get better at self-regulation, at your own emotional regulation, and not fly off the handle or react or get triggered and start again, dumping it on everybody else. It takes practice, and we're not going to get it right all the time. Knowing how to take care of your own emotional well-being, regardless of people and the situation you're currently facing. Ignore your circumstances and focus on what's happening with me. How do I want to feel? No, I'm not going to choose to be that a-hole to match their a-hole. God, that sounds weird. You know, oh my gosh. If somebody wants to act like a half-wit, just let them act like a half-wit. In my world upstairs, your rant is irrelevant because I choose peace instead of proving myself. I choose feeling good over your tantrum trying to get your way. Go on. Rant it out. This is not my problem. It has nothing to do with me. Managing our internal state is the only thing we can do when somebody's breathing down our neck because they haven't managed their internal state. You see what it is? It's so easy to react off somebody else's reaction. Dysfunction spreads like a disease. One person gets angry and then the other person gets angry because that person gets angry. It's cutting that cycle and breaking the chain of dysfunction. And that takes a lot of responsibility and a lot of accountability for yourself and a lot of patience for yourself. The best part of all of this process of letting it fall apart and then finding the tools in which you can self-regulate and turn that focus inward and choose how you want to respond is it frees up a lot of energy. The relief that you feel when you chip away at not needing everything to be the way you think it should be, of having to walk on eggshells so that you make sure somebody responds or doesn't react a certain way, and it's exhausting to constantly have to monitor the situation and control the situation. And once you stop, I wouldn't say caring, but once you let that happen, the energy you bring back to yourself is incredible because you mostly didn't realize how much of it you were giving away. Leaking energy all over the place because you were so invested in how things turned out and how other people were and how the circumstances were. So next time things get wild or people stand out for all the wrong reasons, try practicing the let it fall apart. Let go of needing to fix it, needing to correct things, needing to explain, and you may now find that you have the energy to create the life and to create the peace that you deserve.